Welcome to the NH Podcast, where we talk about all NH sports and all professional sports. First off, we'll start with the MLB. And?
Okay, so we're going to talk about we'll start with the American League with the playoffs. Wild card, Jays beat the Orioles. Jays went on to beat the Rangers. The Indians went on to beat the Red Sox, and then the Indians beat the Jays to make it to the World Series. And in the National League, we had the Giants beating the Mets to start it out in the wild card. The Cubs beat the Giants in the division. Dodgers beat the Nationals, and then the Cubs ended up beating the Dodgers to make it to the World Series. Last night was Game 1. The Cubs 6-0'd the Indians. The Indians 6-0'd the Cubs. So, I mean, what do you guys think about this? Who do you think's going to win? Let's go.
The Indians, obviously.
Well, no one here loves the Cubs because they're just trash.
I don't know. I think the Cubs are going to go all the way.
No, shut up.
I've been saying it from the beginning.
Yeah, I like Chicago sports.
I think their pitching rotation over the next few games will save them and get them back on track. So you're going to be having games here in Wrigley in a little bit. So I see this potentially getting to a 7-game series in my book.
And the Indians take it in Game 7.
I don't know. I think the Indians win it in 5 or 6. What an awesome event, though, to have at Wrigley Field for the first time in, 71 years, something like that. I can't stand the Cubs, but Wrigley Field is a classic place to watch a game. So have the Indians beat them in their own.
A little fun fact for you guys. I just found this. The Chicago Cubs have the record for the most consecutive World Series losses. It stands at 8 right now.
That's
a record.
That'd be.
It's a nice find.
That is. I know. I found it on Twitter.
I mean, I think the Cubs will win as long as there's no goats or black cats. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the case there too. I just see all this built up. It's 2016. Everything that's been going on crazy around the world. Anything is possible at this point. So I'm giving the Cubs a chance. I mean, I want Cleveland to win. I'd rather have that Believeland, but I see probably Chicago at least giving a run for their money. I see it going to Game 7.
Did you see? I forget where this was, but there was a story. I believe it was posted on ESPN. There was a senior kid in high school in 1993 that for his senior quote in the yearbook wrote "Chicago Cubs 2016 World Champs."
Yeah.
This was in 93. That was incredible.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I saw that. I think he said, it was like that, and I think write it down after that. I'd have to look at that picture again, but yeah, the omens are there. I mean, maybe the sports almanac from Back to the Future might have been just a year off.
That's right.
But let's not pretend that Cleveland hasn't been waiting a while too.
Right.
I mean, I was thinking last night, yesterday was the NBA started. The Cavs had their first game. So I was wondering what people in Cleveland are going to watch. Are they going to watch the Game 1, or are they going to watch the handing out the rings and putting up the banner?
Yeah.
See, I mean, what would you rather go to if you were a Cleveland sports fan? That's what I was saying.
Yeah, I mean, that's the first sports championship overall in Cleveland in, 50-plus years? I mean, I think being able to see the banner up for the first time, that would be incredible. I mean, you have at least, 3 more games for sure, regardless of what happened last night. And there's a lot more games coming up ahead. So I think if you're a Cleveland fan, at least in my book, and if you're especially somebody that's older, that's been around, seen all the disappointment of all the teams, I would go and see the Cavs, see that championship banner up, because it's been a long time seeing anything like that up in the rafters. So my thing, looking at tonight's game, is there going to be anything in terms of a hangover? I'm just seeing this on ESPN. They're just talking about that there's so much hype for just the city of Cleveland in general. But they played out of their minds, played fantastic last night, Cleveland did. They played big league. But can they carry that over into Game 2? Games moved up a little bit earlier by an hour. I don't know if that'll impact anything, but is there going to be any kind of a hangover that allows Chicago to take one game in Cleveland, go back to Wrigley, and maybe have some momentum? That'll be the big thing.
Kluber pitched last night, right, for the Indians?
Yeah.
He had an amazing night.
You know what ticks me off about the World Series is how we could not get Bob Uecker to announce the Indians in the World Series. Get a little Harry Doyle action going.
Challenge.
Well, Bob Uecker didn't go much outside of Milwaukee this year, did he? Did he call
No,
on
he's
either
getting
maybe
old. He's
Chicago,
getting
maybe
old.
St. Louis, but
Yeah, I think he's on a pitch count for the games that he gets to be able to broadcast. So I think, yeah, it's just the home ones he's at right now. But I gotta see who's the starting pitchers for tonight. Because like I said, they were talking about it at the end of the game. The announcers, the great Joe Buck and friend, that, you know, going over the next few games, that Chicago's rotation will be something that'll save them, that they just had to get through this first game and go from there. But I gotta see with the
Starting
matchups
pitchers,
tonight, yeah.
Maybe with Jake Arrieta and Trevor Bauer. Personally.
Yep.
how about the story too of Schwarber coming back for Chicago? Hasn't played since April.
Yeah,
That is pretty impressive.
I saw that.
That's pretty impressive.
Last night.
that was crazy.
Yeah.
And almost hits one out in his first at bat.
I know. Getting into the storybook territory there, I would say. Not meant to be, though.
I don't know. I think definitely Jake Arrieta is the better of the two pitchers tonight.
He's gonna choke in game 2, though. I quote me on it. Quote me on it right now. He's gonna choke.
It's on all different mediums. We can play it back.
Hey, I got a question. If it comes down to it, does Cleveland buy a ticket for Steve Bartman?
Talking about that, I did hear that Kershaw tried to call Bartman like 5 times, and he left voicemails every time saying he will pay for his plane flight and all that.
Leave the guy alone. Come on.
No, he
I don't know.
he should be president.
I feel if any of us were in his position, we all would have went for that ball. So
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, that's been, what, 13, 14 years? He's the new scapegoat, pardon the pun. In that situation, I would think it would be good for just the Cubs to reach out, maybe have him throw the first pitch, have him somewhere just at the game in Wrigley, just to kind of get this full circle, that here we are, we built this team that's going to be able to win in the long run over the next, I don't know, 5-7 years, potentially. You know, the past is the past. Let's move forward and have him as a part of the franchise, a part of the community again, at least in Wrigley, and go from there. That's what I kind of would hope would be happening with him.
that'd be cool to see.
He might get attacked on his way out, though. You never know for Cubs fans.
I don't know.
Yeah. That gets into the reasoning for why, at least for me, I think it's more just the fans than anything, why they're on the list of teams, at least for the MLB, that I'm not a fan of.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to the NFL.
Oh, yes.
Thursday night's game, Bears-Packers.
It was a pretty boring game this first half, I have to say. The Packers looked pretty bad that first half.
Yeah.
I'm being totally honest with you guys. They looked terrible.
Oh, no question. I mean, it was just one of those situations where it's been a repeat of this past year for this Packer offense. If you look at it, 1 year ago, at this point, we were 6-0, going into Sunday night playing Denver, and they exposed our offense, at least for what it was at that time. And I think Rodgers hasn't made a full recovery from that, because that's been the blueprint ever since. And yeah, that first half, again, defense did what they needed to do. I mean, they were playing against third-string guys. They held their own, but it was kind of one of those things where you go, uh-oh. And then especially the start of the second half, Rodgers fumbles, Bears recovered for a touchdown. Started to question what the heck was going on, but righted the ship. I mean, again, they're playing their third stringers. At least the Bears were on defense. But
And quarterback.
Right, in the end, how that worked out.
Yeah.
But I would say, you know, at least it was a start for Rodgers to be able to build some confidence, and who knows, maybe you start to get back to what they used to do. You throw to be able to open up the run. That's what they did in that Super Bowl season back in 2010. Allowed Starks to be kind of a surprise when it came time for the playoffs, because everyone assumed the pass. And I'm hoping, kind of in a way, these injuries at the running back position can open things up in terms of the creativity in Mike McCarthy's offense. So we'll see.
Another big game. Vikings lose their undefeated season to the Eagles. I was watching that game.
Oh.
It was a pretty boring game.
That was turnover city.
Oh, 5 turnovers in the first quarter.
Yeah.
That's unacceptable at an NFL team.
Can we say fundamentals?
Yeah, that's something that Coach McCarthy and his pressers preaches all the time. Whenever anyone questions him, it just gets back to the fundamentals. I mean, yeah, I mean, looking at Philly, it's one of those things where, hey, thanks for the help, but we play at their place on a Monday night in the next 2 to 3 weeks, so we need to continue to right the ship on offense, and hopefully don't have any more injuries on the on the roster anymore and be able to compete on that game, because we might be heading for the same fate in a few weeks.
I may be a little bit homer here, but I thought for a while now that the Vikings were going to become one-dimensional after losing Peterson, and I mean, obviously the fill-in is okay, but it's only a matter of time before you can figure out how to shut down Sam Bradford and company.
Oh yeah.
And not that they're a bad team, I think they're pretty solid, but it was due, and now the 72 Dolphins can wait yet another year.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those situations where we're looking at this, like I said last year at this time. Denver exposed Green Bay. We were 6-0, riding high, feeling pretty good about ourselves, and that became the blueprint for the rest of the year of what teams needed to do to defend us. So did Philly open that up for Minnesota, or teams that play Minnesota the rest of the year, giving them a blueprint of how to beat their offense, because they have a great defense, Minnesota does, but can you expose Bradford for what it is? And who knows, he's fragile. He can get hurt.
Yeah.
We've seen that, so.
Didn't he tear his ACL 2 years in a row with the Rams?
Yep.
Yep,
He's got a weak knee.
That's not good history, just like Jamal Charles.
yeah.
And then Monday, Vikings play Bears Monday night, it's Jay Cutler's first game back. Which I don't know. I'm not really looking forward to Jay Cutler back.
First of all, they should have moved on Monday Night Football. Period.
That's true. 1-6. I was reading something that for the Indians and the Cubs to make it to the World Series, their NFL teams had to sacrifice themselves, and that's what it's looking like this year. Bears are 1-6. The Browns are 0-7.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I saw that same post. You just got to counterbalance, but I think in due time, I think there's a blueprint that's out there for all the NFL teams to be able to get back to the top. It's just a matter of will the Bears and the Browns ever figure that out. No, go ahead.
There was somebody at the World Series game last night with a sign that said Cavaliers champs, Indians World Series, Browns #1 draft pick. So I thought that was pretty
something to look forward to.
very possible too.
What do you guys think? Browns go winless this year or not?
I think they're gonna bomb. There's no point.
The next Detroit Lions, whatever it was.
They might try to win one, but
They did lose to Miami, so
that team's awful.
Yeah, let's see. I mean, there's these opportunities where it could be a team that's got a good chance to make the playoffs in the AFC, whether it's in the AFC North where they play a couple more teams again, or just another AFC team that's in the playoffs that they might overlook them. Maybe it's like you have the Patriots in a couple weeks and you overlook the Browns. That's kind of those kind of opportunities that would open up for the Browns to be able to win, that they get one magical game plan put together against a team that's kind of just slacking off and looking forward to next week. So that's a possibility. I got to see what their schedule is here.
Another not really big game, more kind of interesting. The Seahawks and Cardinals.
Worst and most boring game I've ever seen until the end.
Ends in a tie, 6-6.
And I stayed up that late just to watch a tie.
Yeah.
Never happened before.
I don't know.
On
Those
Sunday night.
Field goal kickers, just you're paid to make those, and you miss two when it comes down to the edge of the line. Both of them.
Yeah.
Did you guys see Randy Moss? He was in his dress clothes with the NFL people, and he kicked 2 30-yard field goals to prove that it's not that hard.
No,
It's
not at all. I mean, it just seems to me always with these NFC West matchups, whether it's Arizona and Seattle or Seattle and the Rams, it always seems to be low-scoring defensive battles. So it was par for the course. They just would have expected somebody to be able to get enough points to win the game. Meet the objective of what you're supposed to do.
Well, there was that no call when Bobby Wagner jumped over the center and touched the center, which they could have called. Because Bruce Arians was complaining about that at the end of the game. But there were so many times where they could have scored. Both teams. There was a total of 15 punts.
Yeah. I mean, if we had any fantasy punchers, if that was an option, you would have had maybe some records broken for that, for most points for a punter in a night. But yeah, that was garbage.
15 punts, you said? So there were more
15,
punts
yeah.
than points scored?
Yeah.
I just pulled some up. So later that night, they interviewed both the coaches, and Bruce Arians, the Arizona head coach. Then when they asked him about the kick mix, he said he just kept it short. He said you get paid to make it, which I which is true. I mean, you get paid to make it. And then Pete Carroll, the Seahawks coach, said, "I love him and he's our guy." Where I'd rather go the Bruce Arians way of you bring a kicker in, they're here to make those field goals. They're not there to miss them and then just go back and sit on the bench. You got to get a guy in there that can make field goals, especially when it comes down to it. You're paying them big bucks, not to miss. I mean,
it was one of those things. How much of a leash do you give these kickers? I mean, is this something that carries over for the rest of the year? I know Mason Crosby had that about 2 or 3 years ago, where he just couldn't hit the broadside of a barn if it was right in front of him to be able to kick an extra point or a field goal, and people wanted to run him out of town. Gave him another chance, and really over the last 2-3 years since that, he's been pretty automatic. Although we did have a blocked extra point, I think it was on Thursday night, and missed kick or something along those lines. But still, that's one game out of a lot over the last few years that he's stepped up since people wanted to run him out of town.
Speaking of kickers, what's the whole Josh Brown situation with the Giants? I kind of missed that with news-wise.
He's been released, hasn't he?
Yeah, he was released. He was being stupid.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it gets into domestic violence, into that whole issue, and some of the different things that were released in terms of tapes, and I don't know, text messages, something like that. Just some of the things that he was saying about, I think his wife. I think he was married still. And it just gets into this issue of consistency in the NFL anyway, in terms of the penalties that they have. We have, guys getting fines and all these other crazy things for celebrations. And then you have, a 4-game suspension for Deflategate. That was overblown. But when you have situations like this, where it takes a team cutting a player to have some kind of punishment, the NFL doesn't really do much of anything. That's where people start to question and maybe can lead to why you have over the last year or so, just the decline in terms of the amount of people watching it, about a drop off of 10 or 11%, I think, in terms of just people watching on TV. And I just think that kind of inconsistency,
It's true.
when it comes to things like that, hurts them in a big way.
They did sign the man, the myth, the legend, Robbie Gould.
Got his goal.
Former Chicago Bear kicker that never missed.
Yeah.
He's one of the best kickers in the league right now.
Adam Vinatieri is.
Right.
Adam Vinatieri is a guy that's been around for.
Oh.
Yeah.
He used to be a Packer kicker, wasn't he?
I don't know if
No,
he was
he's
ever
a
with Green
Patriots.
Bay, but he
Patriots?
played against,
Yeah, I thought it was
he played against
my
the
bad.
Packers in Super Bowl 31, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think that was his
Which was
rookie.
in like 97.
Yep, that was
January
his-
of 97.
Yeah, that was his rookie year. He's been he's on one of my 2 fantasy teams, and he's been pretty much carrying the team for what it's worth, getting 20 points or so pretty consistently.
Well, another thing I want to bring up, you made the comment of people getting fined for celebrations. Some of them I can agree with, getting fined for your celebrations, but if you're going to get fined for celebrations, how come, like Kaepernick and other people, they can kneel during the national anthem? Like, maybe they should start talking about this, because if you're just getting fined for some celebration, but the other guy can disobey, or not disobey, disrespect the country by kneeling.
Ooh, are we getting into politics? Yeah, I think it's part of that in terms of just the outside groups of who's going to make a fuss about this. There's a rhyme and a reason for why Kaepernick is doing the kneeling other players, and that gets into more politics, whereas celebrations where you had Antonio Brown week 1 twerking and whatever else going on. I don't
What
think
about OBJ and the kicking net? OBJ and the kicking
He's married to her
I was
now.
going to say, when's the save the date memo's coming out? I need to know when the wedding is for that.
He should be suspended for that. It's so annoying.
Suspended, that's a little too
Did you
far.
see him run off the field when he had that game-winning
Challenge.
touchdown? When he had that game-winning touchdown, he literally took his helmet off, ran off the field, down the sideline.
Just stop.
Just he should be suspended.
Well, perfect time. We're going to move on to the NBA. We're going to do a little off-season recap, some big-name players. So first one up here on my list, Dwight Howard was signed by the Atlanta Hawks. How do you think the Hawks are going to be this year?
5th seed in the East.
This season.
5th seed.
I would go with that, about 5 or 6 seed.
Joseph, what's your
Yeah,
thoughts
Joe.
over there, buddy?
I don't know, I think they'll do a little bit better than that.
How much better?
They don't have... I don't know, they did pretty good last year.
Yeah.
Acquiring Dwight Howard, they should
They did leave Jeff.
Go deep into the
They left
playoffs.
Jeff Teague, Al Horford, Kirk Heinrich, though, which it's gonna be. Those are some big name players to just lose.
Dennis Schroeder's the man, though. He's going to be good.
Cleveland obviously is the one, you would think, right, in the East?
Yeah.
I don't know about that. The Raptors could sneak in
The
there.
Hawks could be like a 5 or a 6.
Well, after the
Yeah.
Knicks,
I definitely think the Hawks will make it, but I don't think they'll do anything if they make it.
Yeah, it's one of those situations. It's just a matter of seeding, and if you're in the bottom half, at least with the Eastern Conference right now, things have gotten better, I think, overall. But there's still a little bit of ways to go to compete with the West.
And don't forget about the Toronto Raptors. They'll be a factor, too. I think the Hawks are middle-range playoff team in the East.
Yeah,
So where does that put them on the scale of the NBA? I'm not real sure. I can't see them getting much past the semifinals of the East, but
Yeah.
you never know. They get hot, you never know.
What are your thoughts on Al Horford going to the Celtics over the Hawks?
I'd rather go to the Celtics. I mean,
Is it a good move for it, the Celtics?
I definitely
or
think the
not?
Celtics are becoming a better team every year.
yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where you have a young core. They kind of had to be in a rebuilding process with going from the big three to where they're at now. So, I mean, I think it's something that will help them out, have a little bit veteran leadership there, and be able to kind of take that next step, I think. So.
I object to that.
Okay.
My reason is because, they're so young with all their young players, and they get this old guy. I feel like it's going to slow their tempo down on the court, which could, that's the Greg Monroe situation with Milwaukee. He slowed them down so much, which really affected the Bucks on defense and all sorts of stuff.
I just saw some. The Brooklyn Nets picked up 10, either picked up, signed, traded, but they have 10 new players this year. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, they used to have they had 2/3 of the big three from Boston, where they had Paul Pierce and they had Kevin Garnett there for a bit. So, I mean, you have those veteran guys there, and I think they just kind of had to do a purge. And now it's kind of one of those where they're in that rebuilding mode. I don't know if they'll
Yeah.
be able to be back.
If you look at the players, though, it's Anthony Bennett. What is he average? A point a game?
I know the only big names I can
Yeah.
really see are
Yeah.
Jeremy Lin and Grievous Vasquez, but they're not even that good.
Jeremy Lin airball's a layup. I mean,
It's not
you can't get
24,
any worse than
22.
that. And he slicks his hair up and it gets in other players' mouths and faces and gosh.
Get him out of here. Get him off the court.
The
The only good
Hornets,
player they signed was Grievous
Yeah.
Vasquez, former Milwaukee Buck.
they picked up Roy Hibbert. I mean, he didn't really do anything in Los Angeles. So,
Well, the Hornets are going to lose tonight, just to let you know. But
Yeah, want to get into at least a little preview about the game tonight there at all with Bucks and the Hornets?
in a little bit.
All
We
right.
still got
We'll get
to
there.
we got to talk about the
We'll get
Bucks
there.
off season here.
we'll go over the Bulls and Bucks trade. Michael Carter-Williams traded to the Bucks for Tony Snell and I think a draft pick. I mean,
Yeah, second round.
Michael Carter-Williams never really fit with the Milwaukee offense
I
at all.
agree. I agree.
No. I mean, you've seen that a little bit before, too, because who's with the Knicks now that used to be with the Bucks and blanking right now?
Brandon Jennings.
Brandon Jennings.
Yeah, one of those things where everybody had those high expectations. You had a 40 or 50-point game early on in this rookie year, I think it was, and everyone was expecting him to do that night in and night out, and that just wasn't the kind of style or what you should expect from him. It just everyone had that kind of high expectations. So yeah, I think that's kind of the same thing that's happening here. It just wasn't going to be that kind of a fit.
This is going to start an uproar, but what do you think about Kevin Durant going to the Golden State Warriors?
They are not going to be good. I say they have 20 or more losses this year.
It's one game.
That is, anytime you add a big star like that, you obviously have to think about, does he match with their team chemistry and all that sort of good stuff, but pro athletes, I think, are a little bit different than a collegiate team. They're getting paid lots of money to form a cohesive unit, so, I don't know, I think it sets up to be a great team. Will they equal the amount of wins as they did last year? I doubt it,
No.
but that's awful tough to get to 73 wins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you can see their chemistry last night.
I mean,
all
Their off-season chemistry was
It was
crazy.
so off.
That team looked amazing.
they looked terrible last night, though. They are out rebounded by 30 from the San
Hey,
Antonio
it's one game.
Spurs.
It's one game.
I don't care. I hate
Yeah.
the Warriors.
I mean, you take away Big Timmy, he's gone
Big Tim.
with the Spurs, and they just keep on trucking. I think they do the same thing. To me, I think this gets back into Miami just a few years ago, and they had their version of the Big Three, where I don't think they lit the world on fire to start off with. It took a little bit, and yeah, ESPN was saying, what's wrong? And then the calendar turned into a new year, and from that point on, they turned it on when they needed to, got in a run, and then obviously got in their NBA final run there for a few years. So take time, as I say a lot during a game or during a season. A lot of ball game left.
There will be no 24-1 shirts made this year because they already have lost.
You never know. They could run off 24 in a row.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, last team we're going to talk about, of course, it's got to be the Milwaukee Bucks. Biggest name I can see they added is Matthew Dellavedova.
He's going to thrive.
I think he's going to be great in Milwaukee with just how they run everything.
The Aussie is going to fit perfect with all the other Aussies on the Milwaukee Bucks, with Thon Maker. And
Aussie, oi, oi, oi.
I really like the Thonmaker pick. I think obviously it's a traditional Bucks draft pick where they draft on potential and hopefully he'll pan out. But this kid bulks up at all, he's going to be a star. I think.
the next Giannis question mark?
Ooh, maybe. Maybe, give him time. Ooh. Is that a challenge throw down there?
Yes. Challenge.
What's behind that? Why do we think not?
Yeah, come on, Joseph, get your input in here.
Probably this one.
What's your favorite NBA team?
Oh. The Timberwolves, of course.
Well, that's
We'll look. I'll find it. Okay, here we go. The T-Wolves.
It's roughly.
Want to give us a little preview on the T-Wolves?
I mean, they picked up Brandon Rush,
they're
back up
still
for Curry
developing.
last year. So, how are the Wolves gonna do this year?
Probably not too great, like past couple of years. They're still developing though. Starting to form a good, solid roster with Andrew Wiggins and Karl Anthony Towns. Zach LaVine winning back-to-back dunk contests. Karl Anthony Towns with the skills showcase.
I want some predictions on how the Milwaukee Bucks are going to do this year, because they're probably the team with the most questions coming into the season.
They'll make the playoffs.
With the Middleton ACL or whatever it was, hamstring injury.
They'll definitely make the playoffs, but I don't think they're gonna do anything when they get there.
Yeah,
Maybe a first round win. Maybe.
I'm more of the mindset of just kind of setting the bar low. I think last year, I saw people having the Bucks seated as number 4. Kind of everyone had the hype built up and didn't even make the playoffs. So, I mean, again, we have a young nucleus. I just don't want us to be in that spot again where we're a 7 or an 8 seed, having to play the Cavs or Toronto, and then get in that situation where, we're down 2-0 right away, get the third game at our place, we win that one, and then get closed out the next game. We've seen that too much the last 15, 16 years. I want things to change. They have a new arena coming up. Hopefully this can be a starting point to that, taking that next step. So I would still probably say where they have been, probably a 7, 8 seed at the most.
Well, they were a 6 that one year they just surprised everyone and made the playoffs. And they put up a fight against the Bulls.
All right, we're gonna take a quick break, guys. So, anyone listening on the air, we're just gonna take a quick break. We'll be back on soon.
Folks, there will be a trivia question later on, just to let you guys know.
All right, okay, we'll be back soon.
Welcome back to the NH Pod. It is trivia time. So how this is going to work is the first person to answer on our Twitter, to tag our Twitter page, will get free admission into the next sporting event at the Holstein
Of your choice.
of your choice, paid for by us, the pod. And the trivia question is, what are the 3 current teams tied for the longest World Series appearance drought with the 47-year drought? Starting now.
That's a good one.
3 teams all have 47 years.
Yes, 3 teams.
All right, and what's the Twitter handle for the fandemonium that's out there?
Podcast NH. At
Here,
Podcast
Here,
NH.
we'll tweet the question on our Twitter page too.
All right, sounds good.
So, if
Yep, so if you're not following, get to that Twitter handle.
Podcast NH, follow us on Twitter.
Well,
Okay.
We'll get a quick opening night preview for your very own Milwaukee Bucks. They played the Charlotte Hornets. They were like 7th seed last year. So they made the playoffs. I know that.
Yeah.
I feel it's gonna be an overtime victory for the Milwaukee Bucks.
Overtime
110,
on night 1.
110, 106, Milwaukee. Quote me.
110, 106. Do we write that on the chalkboard over there?
Yeah, let's get that
Right.
in there.
Okay, I'll write it right now.
That's bold. That's bold.
Yeah, write it down.
All right.
Chiefs right and left-handed. Let's see how this looks. All right. I think the Bucks pull out a nail biter. I think they're geared up on night 1. The BMO Harris Bradley center is going to be rocking.
How much?
And Giannis hits a game winner.
Oh,
Half court.
I have a quick
Half court.
question. How much do you think Thon Maker's gonna play?
That's a good question.
Our big number 10 pick.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't watch too much in terms of the preseason, so I don't know how he got in terms of playing time. So I don't really know.
Okay, so after that, we're gonna be moving on to the NCAA football or college football. Now, the season, it's been a pretty good season. I mean, let's look at the quick, the AP poll. I'll name off the top 10 quick. Oh, Wisconsin dropped out. Okay, so at number 1 we got Alabama, 2 we got Michigan, 3 we got Clemson, 4 Washington, 5 Louisville, 6 Ohio State, 7 Nebraska, 8 Baylor, 10 Texas A&M, or 9 Texas A&M, 10 West Virginia, and just cause 11 Wisconsin. So I mean, what's been the biggest standing out team you think this year for college football?
Well, I'm not surprised to see Alabama up there, but honestly, I did not expect number 11 in the country out of Wisconsin this year. I thought if they got to 500, maybe a little better, qualify for a bowl game, that was going to be about it this year. But sitting at 11th in the country in momentum and very close competitive losses to Ohio State and Michigan, who are 6-2. Pretty good start.
Yeah, Ohio State losing to Penn State, that really bit Ohio State. I mean, I was reading something last year after week 7, the top 4 ranked teams did not make the NCAA college football playoff.
Really?
And I was looking at that, and then Ohio State lost. I'm like, it might be a remake of next year, or last year, coming into this year, which that'd just be crazy to think about. I mean, no doubt, Wisconsin still has a chance if they can pull off the big win against Nebraska, that'll really bump them up. And then they just need a couple teams to lose.
Yeah, I mean, there's, at least in my book, the potential that if they win Saturday night, whether it's convincingly or not, they can kind of flip roles in terms of them going up to where Nebraska is at 7. And looking at what the schedule is left, I think this is the toughest competition we got in the regular season. So I would just say, there's a chance that if we can get the job done Saturday night, run the table, we can get into that Big Ten championship game, and who knows where things fall at that point. We've had the first 2 years of this playoff format where we've had a Big Ten team represented. Who knows? Very real possibility the Badgers could be in that prime spot. When I was in the same boat as Hoffy, I didn't even think, wasn't sure they're going to get to 500 this year. So we'll see.
Do you guys see any teams that you don't think should be in the top 10 in your minds?
No.
It's hard to say. I
think
don't know
it's-
a whole lot about Washington, so
Yeah.
it surprises me to see them at 4 and 7-0, but 7-0 is 7-0. So
Yeah.
I'll check who Washington's played.
I would say the
They
same. But
they beat number 7 Stanford. Otherwise, they played all around unranked teams this year.
I feel like Nebraska should not be there. They should be like 13 because look at their strength of schedule. It's not that hard. But now they face the best team in the country, Wisconsin. Bucky.
They're so good they have 2 number ones behind, right?
yeah.
Yes.
Oh, it's 11. Cheeks.
Oh, so close.
Where's the challenge flag?
Challenge. Coach McCarthy.
Next, we're gonna go over the Heisman watch.
Lamar
I think it's pretty young who's going to win the Heisman this year. I mean, there is nobody else performing quite as well as Lamar Jackson is, quarterback out of Louisville. I mean, this season, 2,161 passing yards, 18 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, a 58% completion rating, and 91.6 QBR. I mean, those are some pretty good stats, but being able to do those stats with 908 yards rushing, 16 touchdowns, and 7 yards a carry that's unbelievable. Being able to run and throw like nothing.
Oh, he is the man.
That's like video game type numbers right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's unreal.
And you get some good teams too. I mean, they haven't been playing too many slouches. And honestly, in my opinion, I don't think he was, maybe just me, on anybody's radar going into the season as a Heisman watch kind of guy. So to come out of nowhere like this, it's going to be interesting to see what he does at the end of the year, whether he goes and sticks it out and plays another year or two in Louisville, or if you start thinking to look ahead NFL.
True, but what's the rule in the NFL? 3 years?
It's
What
2.
year-
It's 2
two?
after your sophomore year.
What do you think he would do in the NFL though if he does decide to leave?
You definitely can't really be a running quarterback in the NFL. I feel
I
a
feel
lot.
he's gonna be.
Yeah, a lot of times when the running quarterbacks in the college come to NFL, they just don't perform as well. Like Johnny Manziel, RG3, they just.
Cam.
I mean, Cam Newton, he's good, but he didn't really run much. He became more of a pocket passer.
And he's
And-
a lot bigger.
Yeah, he's huge, but
Like you.
I just feel like running passers,
Huge.
running quarterbacks just don't really show as much as they do in college as they do in the NFL, or the other way around. But
He's gonna be. I think he's gonna be an average starting quarterback. Average.
I mean,
Nothing special, but just average.
I think it's one of those things where if you start off hot like you had RG3 and Colin Kaepernick, you might be able to keep the normal playing style you had in college for a year and a half, but if that. But the NFL guys are going to figure it out, and Colin Kaepernick didn't really develop his game that much. RG3 got hurt, that didn't help, and his game really hasn't been able to be developed. So you get figured out. It's just a matter of being someone like Cam, where you become a pocket passer. You can still be a threat to be mobile, but you have to have a pocket passing game developed, otherwise you're going to be done real quick and be like in Colin Kaepernick's shoes and being a backup after being in the Super Bowl a couple years ago.
yeah,
He is the starter now, though.
yeah, he did get bumped up.
He's not a backup anymore.
Still, the Niners aren't really
He's
doing
back.
anything this year,
He's
so
back.
Garbage.
You think we're good at covering that? I feel we should go to the men's basketball NCAA.
Ooh.
Let's take a look at the preseason rankings.
So the men's basketball, number 1 we got Duke, 2 Kansas, 3 Nova, 4 Kentucky, 5 Oregon, 6 North Carolina, 7 Virginia, 8 Xavier, 9 Michigan State, and 10 yours truly, Wisconsin.
Get the Dukies out of their number 1 spot.
Well, who are you going to put there instead?
I'm gonna say
I don't know. These
Villanova.
rankings are way too early.
Nova. I haven't really looked at it yet, but I just like Nova better than Duke.
I
Who
think-
likes Duke, honestly?
I
They
thought
have
of some
players.
college anything. They shouldn't even have rankings out until after the first 2 or 3 games.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Because you have a team coming in ranked number 1. They haven't even played a game against anyone yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's just all on paper. I mean, that's all this is, based off of who's returning, all the recruits that you have as freshmen that maybe are able to start, if you have 5-star recruits, kind of getting into that realm. It just would be, if you go that route, I would think, it would be looking at your strength of schedule, who you're starting off with. I mean, who is Duke and Kansas and even Wisconsin, who are we starting off with? How are you going to be able to measure
I feel
not
Wisconsin's
necessarily.
could definitely have a great team this year. I mean, they have a lot of returning players.
Should
Compared,
be set up pretty well.
see, there's not much to talk about the college basketball. So
Well, if you look at, you brought up a point about the preseason rankings and how much they actually affect. I would say they affected quite a bit, especially in football. When you start out at
well,
number
yeah,
one,
with
you have
LSU
to
and Wisconsin.
work up to get into that playoff. I
Yeah.
think it factors more there than it does basketball, because basketball, they have this thing at the end of the year where they put 64 teams and actually play it off.
Right.
What?
There's a concept. We can't do that in football. We can't expand that anymore. Before challenge.
We have a trivia question winner.
Ooh, who is it?
His name is Adam Freund.
Fandemonium.
The correct answer was the Washington Nationals, the San Diego Padres, and sadly, the Milwaukee Brewers.
Wait a minute. It hasn't been 47 years since they appeared in the World Series, cheeks.
Yes, it
Brewers?
has.
No,
That's what it says on the internet.
1982 was 34 years ago.
Let me do the math.
Uh-oh.
We're under review right now.
Let's go to New York, folks.
What is it?
Challenge.
Here, we'll let Cheeks look that up.
You guys start talking.
We're going to go on to yours truly, the Holstein Sports. First up on our list, volleyball. They had an overall record of 22-18. They were 8-6 in conference play. I mean, that's a pretty good season compared to some other seasons. I mean,
Yeah, I was going to say thank you to the Fandemonium for chiming in and let's starting off here with volleyball. I mean, at least for me, just looking at it, how things are right now, I think maybe just in new Holstein Sports in general, we're going to have a good young nucleus all the way across the board, and I think that's the same for volleyball. They're only, I think, going to lose 2 seniors this year. So really, I think all the way across the board, if you look at new Holstein Sports, if we do our due diligence, get in the weight room, do what we need to do, we could be onto something here with the groups
I mean,
that are coming out.
they earned a number 4 seed this
Well-
year, only losing 2 players.
And they had a couple injuries right before.
Yeah, they had the injury bug at playoffs.
And then you come back in next season, almost the same team. I mean, I see nothing more than having a great, unbelievable season with a lot of talent.
I'm
The
saying,
freshmen this year were looking pretty promising, looking like
Oh,
a
yeah.
couple more maybe
I'm
starting varsity.
I'm saying a state run next year. A state run next year for
The
v-ball.
rest of them were sophomores pretty
I
much.
think there was 2
Yeah, like
freshmen.
that being down in or up in Green Bay
Yeah,
for state,
we're going to
down
state
in
for
Madison
v-ball.
for things.
Quote me.
You know,
Quote me.
let's cover all
Well,
grounds.
geez.
I think there was about 2 freshmen on there, so they'll have them next year. There's a couple sophomores, a lot of juniors. I mean, we're looking to a pretty stacked team next year. So,
Yeah,
We're going to state. We're going to state.
I mean, I just feel that way across the board. A lot of freshmen, sophomores, and even juniors had the play up that maybe in other years where you have a lot of seniors. That wasn't necessarily the case in this year, all the way across the board. I think that's happening. It's just taking the lessons from what happened this year, and being able to know what, make those corrections. Like I said, get in the weight room, build a sense of community with the team in all the sports, and I think we could be onto something here.
Well, winning record 8-6 in conference play, that is a very tough conference.
Oh, yeah.
Volleyball,
Oh, yeah.
at least with Chilton, the conference champ, is still playing their own sectionals.
It wasn't Falls really good too.
Well, how's your state bracket looking for volleyball? I think you had that set up. You had one. How's that looking?
Yeah, I took tickets for the regional game, and the first round I think I had 4 wrong in that bracket, and then I only have like 3 of the final 8 now, but took some chances in the last.
you had New
couple
Holstein
rounds.
going all the way, didn't you?
Can I plead the 5th on this one? No, I did not, but I was there cheering, and I just didn't see how they were going to get past Chilton, but regardless, they would have battled. So.
Next up, we got the Holstein football. I mean, they had overall 3-6, 3-4 in conference play. Coming into the season, they were looking to be a very good team. Ended up not being so hot. Lost 2 games by 6 or less points. Tough season. I mean, didn't make the playoffs after making the playoffs last year for the first time in a while.
Well,
Yeah.
I feel like the Waupun game was really killer. Because we ended up getting our butts kicked by Berlin. Waupun would get there, play our butts off, and lose by 1. And that would have been a huge confidence getter, and the Kiel game too.
Kiel game.
That was
Kiel
huge.
game would have been huge. Being able to get that conference win.
Yeah, was it the Keeler Waupun game where I had that crazy 2-point conversion where the guy was falling back?
That was a pawn.
That was Waupun.
I mean, that was just kind of our luck this year. We couldn't catch a break on those kind of the plays on our end, and it would seem like other teams would be able to catch a crazy
And
break.
toward the end of the season, we had injuries we lost Gil,
Yep.
which he was put in.
We did lose some players.
We had a couple
hand, foot, and mouth.
Yeah.
We had a couple young guys bring up. So
Yeah. I mean, I get.
Cheap suffering
No, I
from diabetes.
think,
Yeah, diabetes.
obviously some of the
That'd be
breaks
some
didn't go
concussions.
the way of our team this year, but, from all I could tell that they had the energy and had the excitement every week, and, sometimes it just doesn't go your way, and, but like we talked about for volleyball, they're losing a good, I think, 10 seniors this year? But that's not a lot for football. I mean, you bring
Yeah, for
back a
football,
good,
yeah.
solid young core, and,
Mhm. Yeah.
do what you need to do in the off season, like you said, and could bounce back pretty strong.
Yeah, I mean, we have a guy or two in here that had to do that, get some good playing time in varsity, and I think that was just kind of the thing across the board. Just knowing what happened in those close losses, making those adjustments in the off season to be able to not get into that position, develop as a team, get together, have that sense of unity. I think the sky's the limit. I mean, kind of trying to look around the conference of where the other teams are at. There's a potential window of opportunity, I think, for us.
we were looking at numbers the other day. A lot of the other teams they're losing unbelievable amount of seniors. Like Two Rivers had some crazy number, like 20 or 21 seniors are leaving.
Is
So-
President finally going to graduate?
I think he's gone.
Okay.
It's definitely gonna be a lot of new teams next year. I mean, our team, we're losing some big names, a lot of tough losses.
Mhm.
So I mean, we were a pretty young team this year. Next year we're gonna have a lot of experienced players ready to play. I think it'll be a pretty well played football season next year.
Yeah, and just as we kind of see within the room here, it's all sophomores. So, as we saw that on the football field, again, we got a young nucleus, got a couple years, let's go.
Next up, we got soccer, which
It's looking pretty promising.
unbelievable season this year. Had an overall of 16-3-1, 9-0 in conference play. Took home the conference championship, and they won their first game in the playoffs, and they lost their second to Wrightstown in the regional final, which sucks. I definitely thought they were going to have a state run in this year, and chances just
Tough break.
gone.
I mean,
How it rolls.
Wrightstown had a solid defensive plan. They double teamed post way for sure, and then a lot of the they had a couple of breaks, had a couple of opportunities, a couple of them hit the crossbar, and that's all she wrote.
I did not get to attend the game, so I didn't see it. But I heard that Wrightstown, whenever we got in the scoring range, they just kicked the ball straight out of bounds,
Yeah.
just so they get reset.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, this might be, from talking to some of the guys on the team, this might be at least a sport that's losing the most amount of seniors overall, I think, this year. So I think, again, they still have good nucleus, but I think compared to football and volleyball, what we've talked about so far for fall sports, I think they're losing a little bit more in terms of senior leadership and playmaking ability. So we'll see how they recover, but I think they'll be good. They'll be still rocking and rolling.
Next up, we're gonna go through the cross country team. I mean, I didn't really hear much about cross country all year, but I know I was looking through a little bit of stats, a lot of runners, which I thought was pretty cool. From their first meet, coming into their last, all their scores improved, which that's nice to see. At least they're making improvement through the season. Nobody made it out of sectionals, which sucks, but it's just cool to see improvement. Hopefully they'll have their chance sometime. But
Well,
Yeah.
cross country is one of those sports where it doesn't get much attention, But it's a hard sport to do. You got to give them props for that. It's
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Oh.
I did that in high school, and yeah, I mean, it was just one of those things where it's you're relying on you, there's not anybody else. And it was just nice to be able to see. That's kind of the goal within cross country, is to be at the end of the year to be able to pick up speed, or at least lower your times down, and to see them do that was really nice to see. So, I mean, it's compared to where I grew up, to be able to have enough for a team, I think both ways is really fantastic too, is to be able to have those kind of numbers to be able to compete on the team side of things.
let's get a couple spring sports previews and some boys basketball and girls basketball.
Yeah, all right.
So we'll start with boys basketball. Why not?
Yeah,
What are your guys' thoughts for this year? Starting off against Waupun, the defending state
That's
champions.
a great game right there.
It'll definitely show
He's going
how
with
the
it.
Holstein's going to be.
Well, is that
Well-
what's that player's name that's so good for Waupun?
Damask, isn't it?
Domask, yeah. I don't know. I feel like we're gonna be able to shut him down because we got the man, the myth, Austin Schraggy
Yes.
and Nolan Byrne down in the paint. We'll win.
We'll talk more about it next week.
I think they have the potential to have a very solid season this
Oh,
year.
yeah.
If they keep everything together and they stay healthy and all this
Mm-hmm.
good stuff.
We also have Devin Chisel back this year. He'll be playing.
Yeah, no injuries there or anything, be able to come back, be all good, so that's going to be positive there.
I mean, I think we didn't lose too many seniors, I don't think.
So wasn't Josh Berg got hurt, but
Josh Bird, yeah,
but,
and Bryce Carls.
Bryce Carls too, yeah.
Well, I feel like Shizzle's gonna give us another perimeter shooter. I remember the year he played before. Well, not this year, the year before that. He was making everything from out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think there'll be a good drive from him there in terms of leadership to be able to make that happen, and had a great season football-wise, at least individually. And I think he wants to be able to carry that over to basketball and just be able to get the guys into the playoffs, get a good seed, and make a run for it.
Now let's go over to Hoffy.
Girls basketball.
Girls basketball. How's it looking this year? No.
No. What we want?
No.
Challenge.
Well, we are going to be very, very young, much like the other girls programs this year. As far as how varsity JV shapes up, I don't know that yet. But we have approximately 10 freshmen signed up, probably 8 or 9 sophomores, and then like 3 juniors and 1 senior. So
a pretty young team.
Really young, but I think very talented.
I mean, the JV2 team, or the JV1 team, they didn't do too bad last year. They won a couple of games. I mean, they'll bring it up to varsity.
Obviously, there's a learning curve with anytime you have a sophomore playing varsity, but if you look at the numbers and how they break down, a lot of our varsity teams are going to be sophomores. So maybe a few bumps in the road to start. We have a very tough game right out the gates with Howard's Grove, who's got just about everybody back. But I expect them to work hard and come together. I think this is going to be a fun group of girls to work with, and a very talented group that will make some noise.
We're gonna have a big improvement this year. I feel it's gonna be a lot better than last year.
Big league.
Yeah, and then when the next year comes, we're gonna have a lot of experience. Then if we got, 9 sophomores and 3 juniors, which
Yeah, approximately that. Yeah.
so we'll be young for this year.
Yeah, it's gonna, like I said, we have a potential for a good couple year run here.
Well, that's all we're gonna have for today, guys.
I got one. here.
Olaf's got one more thing.
NH
Challenge.
I was gonna say, at least at the beginning we should have said it, but right now want to thank the Pod Fathers from last year. Get the ball
Yes,
rolling.
the Pod Fathers.
Graduating, going off to college, and I don't know, the other guy, life coach, going to the Dells chasing ducks or something. We want to thank them for everything they did last year, setting that foundation. And I think I speak for the group here. If you're back in town, want to record an episode, come on in. Doors open, seats here. Let's go.
We got a brand new closet this year, but I think you'll find that it's pretty sweet.
Yeah,
Still
it's
got
a little
a
nicer.
Bucks gear right here, so we're good. Got
jerseys.
Got my quotes on the board. We're doing good.
Well, that is all we got for today. Thank you for tuning in to the New Holstein Pod. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at PodcastNH. Tune in next week. NHradio.caster.fm. We'll be tuning in next Wednesday at 4. And see you later.
Beats by Esco.